morning, everyone. It is now 11:01 a.m. Calling the roll for the Tuesday, September 3rd Board of Control meeting. We have Nan Baker, Dale Miller, Trevor Macular serving as an alternate for Dan Brady, Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Mike Dever, Matt Carroll serving as an alternate for Armin Budish.
Here.
Lenora Lockett. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Andrea. I'd like to take a look at the minutes from August 26th. Any corrections, comments about the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Any public comment today?
No public comment at this time.
Okay. So I don't think we have any tabled items. I think we'll move on to new items.
New items. Item number BC 2019-648, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on requisition 45884 and enter into a contract with PSX Inc. in the amount not to exceed $43,625 for parking lot equipment maintenance and repair services at various county parking facilities, and it's for the period September 3rd, 2019 through July 31st, 2021.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Department of Public Works. This first item, we're looking approval of a contract with PSX. They do the parking lot preventive maintenance, repairs as needed. We oversee many county parking lots, and that equipment is constantly used 24/7, 7 days a week in some areas. This was an informal bid for contract. It went to 10 vendors. PSX was the only bid submission, and we're just looking for approval of this contract.
All right, any questions? Councilman?
Is this something we've been doing right along, or is this a new contract?
This is a new contract. We've had a contract with them in the past. As of lately, we'll say the past couple of years, we've been doing as needed DO repairs, where we've bid out to area vendors to come out and do a repair service. So this is a newer contract.
So does this reflect that going forward we're going to do a more extensive and more consistent job of preventive maintenance on the parking lots?
Yes.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you. And a second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't get who second. Thank you. Next item, BC 2019-649, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on requisition 46331 to Epic Energy Solutions, LLC, in the amount not to exceed $12,611 for inspection, testing, and preventative maintenance of 29 power circuit breakers located at the Justice Center.
Good morning, Matt Reimer for the Department of Public Works. This is a capital project, the second of 5 phases we have to improve the reliability of our electrical distribution system at the Justice Center. Phase 1 was completed earlier this calendar year. Phase 2 it continues on our north loop of the electrical distribution system, and this particular procurement is in support of that, and will test and inspect and do all the code required maintenance on 29 medium voltage circuit breakers in the distribution system. This was an informal request for bid at the departmental level, and this is the lowest of 3 bids.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-650, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on requisition 46329 to Epic Energy Solutions, LLC, in the amount not to exceed $11,239 for reconditioning of 2 low-voltage ITE power circuit breakers located at the Justice Center.
Matt Reimer again with the Department of Public Works. This is the same capital project with the same intent to improve the reliability of our electrical distribution system at the Justice Center. This are the reconditioning and rebuild of breakers that were found to be deficient in Phase 1. So these are the Phase 1 rebuilds. We can probably expect a similar effort after completion of the previous item, Phase 2. This, again, also was an informal RFP and an informal bid at the departmental level, and this was the lowest of 3 bids.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2019-651, Department of Public Works. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 46163, which will result in a revenue-generating agreement with Digital C in the amount not to exceed $100 to install, maintain, and operate an antenna on the rooftop of the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Justice Center, located at 9300 Quincy Avenue in Cleveland, and it's for the period September 3rd, 2019 through September 2nd, 2029, and B, submitting the site license agreement in connection with said RFP exemption.
So Catherine Tkachuk, Office of Innovation and Performance. This is a license agreement with Digital C. As you may be aware, the City of Cleveland has an issue with unconnected communities, people who don't have access to the internet, and this is going to be a project that Digital C will run in order to provide low-cost internet access to the Fairfax neighborhood. In order to do that, they need to put an antenna on the roof of the Juvenile Justice Center, and this will allow them to do that with a 10-year license agreement at $10 a year that they pay to the county. For this license agreement, we do have provisions of an ability to cancel if for any reason they no longer provide low-cost internet access, or for any other reason we would need to cancel with 60 days notice, we can do that. And Digital C is here to answer questions on the project if needed.
All right, any questions? Trevor.
Mr. Chair and Catherine, I just wanted to thank Catherine for her patience over the last couple months and the administration's patience with the multiple questions that council was asking about this particular agreement. Last week we did receive a letter forwarded from Digital C regarding some questions that council had about subpoenas from over the last year or so related to the ongoing criminal investigation, and it was a letter from Digital C's attorney stating that Digital C and any of its current employees are not a target or subject of its investigation. So that was very helpful in clarifying some questions that council had. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Good. Councilman?
Yes, just a comment that this is a choice between doing what's easy or doing what's hard but right. It would be easy and safe to just vote no and say I will not be attached to anything that has anything to do with the former one community. However, one of our most important missions as a county is to eliminate disparities based on race and class. This program will help by enabling low-income people to access the internet. County Council persons Yvonne Conwell and City Councilman Blaine Griffin personally asked me to vote for this to benefit their communities. I am satisfied that the connection between Digital C and the Old One community is sufficiently remote to be acceptable. Two wrongs don't make a right. I am voting for this item to help our residents make progress.
Any other questions? Councilwoman?
And I would also comment, thank you for having the patience with us and Digital C that gave us the opportunity to understand what you're doing, how it's coming together, and also the letter that really helped us get to this point today. It's a good project. We supported it really from the beginning. It was just making sure that we understood how it was going to play out. So thank you again for your patience.
And I want to thank council for continuing to ask questions and having those dialogues with us so that we could make it a good project. So I appreciate the ability to continue to provide the information that would make this successful.
All right, if there are no further questions, yes, Trevor.
Just one more comment too, and I know Catherine mentioned it in her answers, but we are also allowing the opportunity for other vendors to provide the same service if other vendors would like to do that. So it's not just to Digital C. So. Right, yes, it's a non-exclusive agreement, and we did send out 11 letters to various internet service providers offering them if they would like to participate in a similar type of project. We would be happy to work with them to continue to try and connect the unconnected throughout our community.
All right, I would like to make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-652, Department of Development, requesting approval of an affordable home loan in the amount of $450,000 to Circle North Homes or its designee for construction of a scattered site single-family lease purchased project located in a concentrated area of the Circle North Glenville neighborhood in the city of Cleveland.
Good morning, Sarah Parks Jackson with the Department of Development. Circle North Homes will be a lease purchase program where we will provide $450,000 in federal home dollars for this $7.5 million project. One of the things that you will see is that we have Circle North Homes for Miko's Foundation as the developer borrower. On the legislation, however, it will say or its designee, as in consultation with the Law Department and OPD as we do these projects and they continue to formulate their other funding. They normally will create a limited liability corporation or limited partnership, which is why we put or its designee. Normally, the developer will be the managing member of either the LLC or the LP. So we're asking approval of a $450,000 loan for Circle North Homes.
Questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second? There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-653, Department of Development, requesting approval of an affordable home loan in the amount of $450,000 to La Villa Hispania or its designee for construction of a scattered single-site family infill project located in the Clark-Fulton neighborhood in the city of Cleveland.
Sarah Parks Jackson, Department of Development. This is a $7.4 million program project to which we have been asked to provide $450,000 of federal home money. It is part of the Metro Health District's rehabilitation of the neighborhood. These will be single families, homes which will allow for some what we call workforce housing to allow those who have a lower salary to be able to purchase a home after the 15-year lease term is up.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second? Motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Item number BC 2019-654, Department of Development, again requesting an approval of an affordable home loan in the amount of $365,000 to St. Joseph Apartments or its designee for construction of a multifamily housing project located at 2554 West 25th Street in the city of Cleveland.
Sarah Parks Jackson, Department of Development. This $13 million project is new construction on the West 25th Street in Cleveland, Ohio. We will be providing a loan in the amount of $365,000, $300,000 of which is our federal home money, and $65,000 which is neighborhood stabilization money that we had left that needs to be closed out. And this project met the requirements of those NSP3 funds.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'd like to move to approve this item. Is there a second? There's a motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is a two-part item. Item number BC 2019-655, Department of Development. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 45801, which will result in a payment to National Urban Fellows, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $65,000 for the sponsorship of a National Urban Fellow, and it's for the period September 3rd, 2019 through May 28th, 2020. And B, recommending the payment in connection with said RFP exemption.
Sarah Parks Jackson, Department of Development. National Urban Fellows has been around for over 50 years. They provide leaders of color and women who have a commitment to public service. Our sponsorship of $65,000 is discounted from the regular $70,000 price. So with that, we have a fellow that will be with the department for 9 months, 40 hours a week for those 9 months, that will be working on a variety of projects with the director.
Any questions? Councilwoman?
Just curious, is this the first time that we've invested in a fellow?
No, actually, we had a fellow, I believe Liz was here in 2004, a young lady by the name of Elizabeth Hilton was a fellow, and when Elizabeth came to the department, she already had her law degree, so these are not quite mid-career, but almost mid-career professionals who are seeking a master's degree in public administration.
I may, just learning more about it, why wasn't there anyone between 2004 and today? What, is it the opportunity, or?
I really don't have the answer. I just think that when we looked at it this year, the director was very excited with some of the projects that we're working on and having the opportunity to bring a person in who could enhance their skills and be of assistance to the department.
And this is being paid for through the Department of Development? It says discretionary funds?
That's correct.
Okay.
That would be the fund that is, it's general fund, but it would be the funds that are used to pay like Downtown Cleveland Alliance and the Greater Cleveland Partnership and those other discretionary
I see.
grants that we make.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right, if there are no further questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second? There's a motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sarah.
The next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2019-656, Department of Development. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 46474, which will result in a payment to Greater Cleveland Partnership in the amount of $50,000 for communications, outreach, and operational support of the Greater Cleveland Civic Connection Program for the period September 2nd, 2019 through December 31st, 2020. And B, recommending the payment in connection with said RP exemption.
Good morning, Paul Hertig with the Department of Development. This item is 2 years of support for the Civic Connection Program. The level of $25,000 per year has been the traditional level, and I'd like to list the other public sector partners who make similar contributions. They are the City of Cleveland, the Port Authority, RTA, and the Sewer District. So each of us are contributing $25,000 per year. This is a continuation of the former Build Up Greater Cleveland program, which I believe goes back to the Voinovich administration, essentially a public-private partnership to coordinate between business leadership and the public sector various kinds of infrastructure investments. And here with me today is Chris Urban from the Greater Cleveland Partnership if there's additional questions needed.
Any questions? Yes, Councilwoman.
So, of course, Greater Cleveland Partnership is quite an asset for us and glad to contribute. I just wondered if, do we ever get an itemized, what it is they do with the funding that they receive? Do we understand what it is that you're investing in, or?
Councilwoman, there are annual reports that are published by the Civic Connection Program. Gladly make those available. I think Chris brought some past reports with him today he can distribute for the board to have.
Okay, just if we're asked, what's the $50,000 being spent on, at least our portion, it'd be nice to be able to come back and say this is what we're spending it for.
Okay.
But thank you for your work. GCP is a wonderful asset for Cleveland.
Great. Thank you.
Yours, Paul, right?
Yes, this is 2 years.
All right. If there are no further questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Paul.
The next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2019-657, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 46344, which will result in an award recommendation to Federal Resources Supply Company in the amount not to exceed $17,850 for Hazmat IQ above the line, below the line training for 30 specialized emergency management personnel and first responders. And it's for the period September 3rd, 2019 through September 30th, 2019, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RP exemption.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety, and this training will enable first responders to quickly assess risks and make proper decisions on how to best mitigate hazardous material events. Ohio EMA has approved the single source vendor for this specific course because it is a patented hazard and risk assessment system, and the vendor holds the proprietary rights to its curriculum.
Any questions? Councilman.
Can you explain what this above the line, below the line stuff means?
Yeah, okay. It's a 10-second, okay, so it's a 4-step system. It's a revolutionary 10-second above the line, below the line chemical sign up. It's a streamlined, okay, so they can go in, they have these flashcards that they use, so they can do a quick assessment. It's gauged whether or not it's the severity of it. That's the above the line, the below the line. It helps them quickly identify what the chemicals that are involved and to choose the appropriate equipment to be used to mitigate it and what protective equipment that they should be donning and how to operate safely in the hot zone.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? So motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Next item, BC 2019-658, Department of Health and Human Services, Cuyahoga Job and Family Services, recommending an award on requisition 46609 and to enter into an agreement with The Ohio State University in the amount not to exceed $25,025 for research and evaluative services of Cuyahoga County's Comprehensive Case Management and Employment Program. And it's for the period February 1st, 2019 through January 31st, 2020.
Good morning, David Merriman, Cuyahoga Department of Health and Human Services. I'm here on behalf of Job and Family Services. I'm bringing forward a two-part item. The first item is submitting an RFP exemption that will enable us to enter into a contract with a political subdivision, The Ohio State University. Can we just cut out the "the" for a second? I'm going to go with OSU or Ohio State. All right, great. Second part is the actual bringing forward of the agreement with Ohio State University, and would like to share a little bit more information about the item as well as the timeline and where we are within that timeline. So first and foremost, what we're proposing today is to partner with the Ohio State University in their statewide evaluation of the state's Comprehensive Case Management and Employment Program. It's a mouthful. We frequently call it CCMEP. You will recall CCMEP was established under the prior governor's administration. This is an effort to try to bring together TANF and WIOA dollars to have a more comprehensive workforce service for young adults with barriers. Ohio State University was able to secure outside funding to do a multi-year evaluation. They asked which counties would like to be a part of that evaluation, and Cuyahoga County agreed to do so. So Ohio State is evaluating the performance of the program and determining whether or not there is an impact on the residents that receive the services. So the evaluation is ongoing. It actually continues through all of 2019. The evaluation is funded out of National Foundation dollars. Ohio State University approached Cuyahoga County at the end of last year. They had pitched an extension of the evaluation to Cleveland Foundation. They asked Cleveland Foundation for additional dollars to do a higher level of evaluation in Cuyahoga County, given the number of residents we have in the program, as well as our general interest to find out beyond what is currently offered how our services are doing. Cleveland Foundation requested that Cuyahoga Job and Family Service match any grants that they provide to Ohio State University. We agreed to sit down with Ohio State and the Cleveland Foundation. This is where governance comes into play. Ohio Means Jobs, Cleveland Cuyahoga County is a co-partner with us, so we had to bring them into negotiations. We had to bring the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services into negotiations, and then we had Job and Family Services at the table. So there were many hands or many people at the table, and inevitably we were able to work through all of the governance issues. We agreed that we would sponsor the match for the Cleveland Foundation fund, but the negotiations did take quite a long time, to the extent that we finalized the deal in, we finalized the proposal in June of this year and brought it into the process for execution. So I do want to recognize there were delays in this. We recognize that. If there is any delays on the DHHS side, I'll take responsibility for those. I will say no funding has been given out from us, no commitments have been given out to us, nor from Cleveland Foundation. If the item is approved today, it will free up both county dollars as well as Cleveland Foundation dollars. Our dollars will come with execution of the item today. The date on the item before you says February 1st. That would be the date that Cleveland Foundation dollars could be used as well. I do understand the appearance here that it looks like we're bringing forward an item that started in February. Nothing has begun. Cleveland Foundation dollars, to my knowledge, could go back and be used for that early period. So this is a jointly funded project, and it looks very different than what we normally do. Last, I'd like to just recognize two things that we're trying to approve out of this grant. First is there will be an effort to test whether or not we see an increase in enrollment when we use texting services. So there is an innovative approach of trying to text participants to let them know that there's an expanded workforce service available to them. And then secondly, we're going to be looking at the broader performance of everyone that went into the program. So we're very excited to do an evaluation. We believe that it's, this should be a part of every major multi-year initiative. You begin to test and determine whether or not you've had the impact that you thought you would. And very grateful for Ohio State University and their patience being willing to work with us. I spoke with them on Friday. I confirmed with them none of this work has begun with any of the dollars. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I would like to first state, David, this is just the award, not an RFP exemption.
Okay. I'm going by the A, but okay.
It changed from your
Oh, did it?
draft.
Okay. All right.
Do you have a question?
Yeah. Thank you for that explanation. You answered a lot of what I know you expected to hear. We have 5 months left before this contract expires. We had a year. So are we still able to get the return on investment, given that 7 months has already passed?
Councilman, yes, we are. So most of the money that we would be using will naturally be in a condensed period. The two major functions that are going to be happening will be Ohio State will be coming up to do some training in advance of the text messaging going out. Okay. That's a big part of what they're going to be doing. The second part will be the data analysis and the reporting after the case. Okay. So it's really in two sections. I should also say, to my knowledge, the national funding dollars, those complete early next year. And so this project has to wrap up on that timeline anyway. So OSU, when I spoke to them on Friday, they said we're still fine to have the program go forward.
If I may, do you expect this to continue then into continuing 2020? Is this something that we can see again once you've, how often have we done this program?
So the Comprehensive Case Management Employment Program is a service we've been offering since 2016. Okay. So that program will continue. It's written into law. This is a part of the way that we offer services to young people with workforce needs. So that will continue. Okay. The evaluation is new. It's something I would just recognize. I'm excited to work with OSU and with Ohio Means Jobs and Cleveland Foundation on this project. Mm-hmm. I'm also happy to see that the state of Ohio and Ohio State University wants to start to test programming. Mm-hmm. That's something we should do more routinely. Mm-hmm. And as much of this is about us getting an evaluation of CCMEP, this is probably, for me at least, more about having Ohio State University work through state politics, if you will, on getting data, using data, working through, IRB, individual institutional review boards, right. and just doing the sort of things that we believe government should do on a regular basis. So for this project, I don't know if this will go again. Okay. I hope this practice will continue forward.
And I would have to say, my time at the State House, TANF and WIA funds were so restrictive. It's good to see that we are taking a look at it, and we're trying to see how it can benefit and if it's benefiting the people that we're trying to serve. So I agree, and thank you for your work. Mm-hmm. I just wish it wasn't so late.
Any further questions?
I don't want it to be
All right. There's a motion and second to approve the item. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye also. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-659, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Reentry. Recommending an award on requisition 46580 and to enter into an agreement with Court of Common Pleas Corrections Planning Board in the amount not to exceed $60,000 for the provision of one law enforcement automated data systems certified records analyst to perform monthly criminal records checks for participants in the adult transition model in connection with the Department of Justice Innovations and Reentry Initiative, and is for the period October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2022.
Good morning, Fred Bollison with the Office of Reentry. This contract is in fulfillment of a requirement of the Department of Justice, who awarded us the initiative, the Innovations and Initiative Reentry Initiative, and it is with the Correction Planning Board. The reason we can justify the not going through an RFP process is, first of all, that they were written into the grant. Second, that it is a government agency. And third, that there's very limited number of agencies or people who have access to these criminal records. It will provide criminal records checks to determine recidivism among participants in the program.
Any questions?
Just one.
Yes, Councilwoman.
For asking a question or answering a question we didn't ask shows that our questions are starting to make some difference. So thank you for explaining why it is why it was bid this way. And even though we didn't ask it, you explained it, and I appreciate it.
All right. Any further questions? Hearing none, I'd like to move to approve this item. Is there a second? There's a motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-660, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with John Lawson for legal services for youth in custody. And it's for the period September 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $17,000.
Morning, Paul Porter, Health and Human Services on behalf of the Division of Children and Family Services. Mr. Lawson is an attorney with a unique skill set that handles cases where kids in DCFS custody run into legal issues. So far, since the start of this contract, he's served 27 kids in DCFS custody. He does currently have 5 active cases as of last week, and we've paid some of the invoices for clients that he served. 7 cases were closed recently and still require payment as well. So we're adding some additional dollars to this contract and then extending the contract because we anticipate some of these cases will continue on, and we're not looking to interrupt legal representation for those cases that are currently open.
Any questions? Councilman.
Not a question, but years ago I served on city council with John Lawson, and we have a continuing relationship. So out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to recuse myself on this item.
All right. Are there any further questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? There's a motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Paul. Oh, one recusal. You got that, Andrea, right?
Yes. Next item, item BC 2019-661, Department of Sustainability, recommending an award on requisition 45760 and to enter into a contract with Environmental Technologies and Communications, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $49,500 for the development of a county-wide outreach campaign related to the implementation of the Cuyahoga County plastic bag ban. And it's for the period September 1st, 2019 through June 1st, 2020.
Thanks, Mike Foley from the Department of Sustainability. As you know, that in spring, Council passed a ban on plastic bags retail and grocery store type services. One of the things we talked to about with Councilwoman Simon, who is the sponsor of the ordinance, was to help make sure we were communicating this as much as possible to residents throughout the county through an informal bid process, working with our communications department, our solid waste district and council. We had 7 bids come in from this informal bid process, and we chose environmental technologies and communications to help us put together a campaign to let folks know about 2 things. One is issues, problems associated with plastic bags and environmental hazards they create, and also to let them know about the bag ban going into place. A question was asked over the weekend about what happens if the state preempts the ability of the county to do its plastic bag ban, and we've talked to the environmental technologies and communications and talked to them about this. It's a possibility. We understand it's a possibility. If that happens, then we will still go forward with them about the larger goal of just trying to reduce plastic bag pollution in the county and encouraging folks not to use plastic bags as much as possible.
Any questions? Councilman.
Are we planning to distribute any reusable bags to low-income residents as part of this program or part of another program?
Councilman Miller, we are. The solid waste district has set aside some money to buy plastic bags, buy reusable bags. Not plastic, that'd be a bad thing to buy plastic bags, isn't it? To buy reusable bags and distribute them to low-income communities or folks who need them, yes.
And do you know how much money they're putting into that program?
They're putting at least $25,000 into that program.
Okay.
Yes, Councilwoman.
So what is their marketing plan? How many communities are they going to go to? How are they going to make sure that they have a town hall meeting, that they get people to come? What is, at least in the broad brush of things, how are they going to make sure people know?
They're going to be helping us put together the plan. So this is, a lot of it will be social media, to be honest with you, I think. And they'll be working with communications department. Our communications department and the solid waste district will be doing a lot of the actual kind of work on this.
Okay.
They'll be helping to put together the kind of the overall, here's the messaging, here's the, we've tested these messages, here's things that we think are informative and work with folks. So they'll be putting the outlines of the campaign together, then communications and solid waste will be working with that on that as long as sustainability.
If I may, is there any outreach outside of social media, or maybe there's some direct mail? Is there any one-on face-on-face?
I mean, Councilman, I think, that's to be determined, I think, and they'll help us figure that out. I can't imagine that it won't be. I mean, we've all got staff, and this is something that is a big thing in the county, so we're going to try to get out there as much as possible with folks. But I think for kind of $50,000, I think a lot of it will be social media, just because of the amount of dollars we have to work with.
Okay, good luck. Thank you.
There are no further questions. I'd like to make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item, PC 2019-662, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, submitting an amendment to a master contract with various providers for interpretation and translation services, and it's for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2020, for additional funds in the total amount not to exceed $144,000 for the following providers: A, Certified Interpreters United LLC, B, the Cleveland Hearing and Speech Center, and C, Cross Thread Solutions LLC.
Good morning, Sarah Baker with Juvenile Court. The master contract that we have for interpretation and translation services encompasses all 4 divisions of the Court of Common Pleas. Juvenile Court just happens to take the lead on this contract. So the increase here that we're asking for is actually just for General Division and Probate Division.
Any questions? Councilman?
Has this money been budgeted, or does this represent an unanticipated additional expense?
I believe for those particular divisions, it was somewhat unanticipated. We knew that there probably would be some increase, however, we didn't know that we would be seeing it so quickly.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Just curious, are all three getting equally the amount, same amount?
How we broke it up this time around is the increases are going more so just for certified interpreters as well as cross-thread solutions. None of the divisions use Cleveland Hearing and Speech very often, only occasionally, so the bulk of the contract is for certified interpreters and cross-thread.
Any further questions? Hearing none, I am going to recuse myself from this vote as well. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
And a second? All right, there's a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. And one recusal. Andrea,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you.
Next item, item number BC 2019-663, Office of the Medical Examiner, recommending an award on requisition 45623 to Horiba Instruments Incorporated, doing business as Specs Forensics, in the amount not to exceed $65,865, and is for the purchase and installation of one universal imaging system, crime scope, and related accessories.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. This is being purchased with a grant. The crime scope will be used in the firearms or fingerprint laboratory. And I believe the amount was $63,000 and change. I think it was emailed to you, Andrea, the change. And there was a question. There were two different costs that were in when we discussed it, and it was the lower number, so it'll be a little less, but this is all grant paid for.
All right. Any questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second?
Second.
And second, all those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Hugh.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I just had a question, just a note. In regards to the prior item where you recused yourself, Mr. Carroll, would you care to explain why, just briefly?
Family conflict on one of the organizations.
Thank you. All right, we're moving along to the next item, item number BC 2019-664, Sheriff's Department, submitting an amendment to a contract with Watch Systems LLC for sex offender notification and verification mailing services for the period May 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $200,000.
Tanisha Gakes with the Sheriff's Department, requesting approval for a second contract amendment with Watch Systems LLC in an anticipated amount not to exceed $200,000. Also extending the dates to end December 31st, 2021. The sex offender mailing notifications are mandated by the ORC, and they notify the residents of registered sex offenders who reside in specified areas. The total amount of the contract would be $575,000 after, if approved.
Any questions? Councilwoman?
Just want to reinforce that this will be the last amendment.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you
That
will
is
come
our plan. This to be the second amendment will be the last.
And that will end in what, 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Is this just pretty much solely mailing service? Is that?
It's a website, so you're also allowed to go onto the website and get information on a certain area, as well as the mailing notifications.
All right. Yes, Trevor.
Chief, I know you indicated that this would be the last amendment, but are there other vendors that provide this service?
Well, how can I put this? So Watch System is the sole proprietor for this service, and they've actually created it for the Attorney General's office. So it's sort of a sole proprietor service because we're going directly to the only vendor that provides it versus using a third party.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second. Motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
The next item is a two-part item. Item number BC 2019-665, Sheriff's Department. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 46679, which will result in an award recommendation to Charm Tex Inc. in the amount not to exceed $109,800 and is for the purchase of 2,000 anti-suicide blankets for jail inmates. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Laura Sims, Sheriff's Department. So we are submitting request for an exemption for the anti-suicide blankets for 2,000 for the jail and recommending an award to Charm Tex. We originally were going to purchase 500 and we did a competitive process for 500. And then there was a recommendation to us from apparently the Adams board that that was not going to be enough. And so we reevaluated it, and 2,000 was what came up. So since we'd already done the competition for the 500, we are requesting an exemption now to 2,000. Now this 2,000, as in one of the questions, this will not be for all of the inmates. This will be for an expanded target population for them. And there are some, once we start using those, we'll do an evaluation to see if we need to use them for additional inmates. There are significant other costs that are hidden here, and that is that these blankets are big and they take up a lot of space, so we're a little concerned about being able to have storage space for everything. On top of it, we just bought these brand new washing machines, and we're concerned how well these blankets are going to work within the washing machines. Quite literally, I would say, 10 blankets is about this high if you stack them. I mean, they're thick. So putting those in, it's going to take twice the time to wash them, twice the detergent, twice the manpower, and we have to have some that we have to be able to swap them out, and then in case we have additional people who come in who need them. So, but the whole purpose of getting this is the quicker we get them in, it is to prevent, suicide in the jail and prevent loss of life.
Questions, Councilman, then Trevor.
I have a question about this item and the next item as to what is it about a blanket that makes it an anti-suicide blanket, and what is it about a gown that makes it an anti-suicide gown?
It has to do with the material that it is, because the way the material is constructed, they can't tie it in a knot. Okay, so you can't form a noose from it or anything like that. And then the other ones, I'm not as well briefed, but my understanding is that the way that they're snapped into them and the way that the material and the construction of the outfit is such that, again, it can't be disassembled to become something that they could use to harm themselves with.
Other questions?
Laura, right now, how many anti-suicide blankets would we be passing out to inmates? Because I know it's not going to every inmate, but how many right now would we classify would need these blankets?
That is a good question, and I would have to find out for sure. I mean, to give you a reasonable number, like I said, when we originally started, we were thinking 500. So I kind of would think that about a little bit less, about that would probably be where we would start. Now, I did find out one of the other questions on that I got the information on was the ordering when we could get them in. We can have 200 this week. Of the blankets, and all the gowns would be able to be shipped this week. And then they will ship the rest of the bulk of the 2,000 in as they get them, because there's a manufacturer that they use in Texas. And apparently the Texas Board of Corrections put in a big order at the same time. So they're trying to, the company is trying to work with both of us so that we'll get them in as we go. So the first 200 would probably go out, right away if we can start getting those. And then as we get the additional blankets in, we would add them.
So knowing that we need more than 200 right away, have we looked at other vendors that provide these type of blankets to at least order enough now to have 500 or so, whatever we need for the given number that we believe we need right away? Have we thought about potentially ordering the anti-suicide blankets from other vendors as well, just so we have enough today?
Well, I think that the 200 we can get by the end of the week, and then they're telling us within 2 weeks I should be able to have the rest of the 500. So, and then after that, we get the rest in. But all of them will be in within 2 months. So I think that by going out, I mean, a couple weeks isn't going to make that much of a difference. And I also think that the cost savings by doing it in the larger quantity will be better for us. Also, just to note, none of the suicides that we've had in the jail have been about a blanket. Okay, so, I mean, this will be a preventative measure, but none of them that we've had to date, they've ever used a blanket. So by waiting 2 more weeks, I don't anticipate that there's going to be a concern.
Then, I know this is for the next item, Mr. Chair, but what difference if we need approximately 500 or so anti-suicide blankets, why do we only need 100 gowns?
Well, because what we're doing is the 100 of the gowns will actually go to the people that we know there's an issue with. These are not going to go to an expanded population. What we're looking at with the suicide blankets is an expanded target population, anybody that we think might be high risk or whatever, but the gowns are only ones where we know there's a problem. Because we, can't put gowns on everybody. That's a human rights issue there. But that's the disparity between,
Laura, any idea of how durability of the blankets or how long they last or that kind of thing?
I am not sure. I could find out about that.
Just wondering how long they are around. And obviously, you need to replace some, but anyway.
Yeah, well, and I think with the 2,000, we won't need to replace them for a while. I mean, I would have to find out on the durability. What I can tell you also is next week, we are bringing another 100 of they're going to be called jumpsuits. So we'll have 200 in total. The difference between the two is the length of the suit. Some are a little bit shorter, some are a little bit longer. And so then we'll have 200 total of the gowns and turtle suits, I guess that they call them. Essentially, they're the same thing except the length. And so some of the bigger inmates, particularly the men who are like over 6 foot or something like that, would need more coverage. So in total, we'll have 200, not just 100.
Any further questions? Yeah, Trevor.
On the blankets, did we get multiple quotes or?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
And in addition to that, we requested that everybody who sent a bid in send a sample of the material so that we could look at it and kind of figure out what best worked and what was the best thing. So we did end up going with the lowest bid on that. However, we also checked out the product before we made the decision as well.
Thanks.
Yes, Councilwoman.
So if the blankets are proactive, the gowns are also proactive? Is that something where it's more preventative than what we've seen?
Yes.
All right, so that begs the question, what is it that we need to do to prevent what has been in suicide? Is there another item that you've purchased, or, I mean, I know drug is certainly a piece of it, but I see we're going through a lot of trouble here for something that we haven't really seen a problem with, which is okay by me. But I just wondered, what have you done before this to take care of what has been, if it has to do with any garments, sheets, I don't know.
Well, we do have a few suicide blankets. I understand there's about, 20 of them in the jail that we've had, and then we have a few of the turtle suits that we've been using. But again, less than 20 of those probably as well, because we've been using them more on only if, somebody heard you say, I'm going to commit suicide kind of a thing. So we're trying to expand that to help prevent. That's why we're going to do some more evaluation on this afterwards to see, how this seems to be helping. And I'm not really sure unless we decide to take everything out of their cell and no sheets and no towels or anything like that, which, you know, we can't really do, the additional staffing is definitely helping because they're able to keep better pulse on what's going on and the you know, the talk and the communication and that kind of thing, and that's huge. Okay.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you can't really put your finger on.
No, that's why I think we're trying to do everything that we can as we get some, you know, more stuff. But you know, there's no way to 100% ever eradicate it completely. I mean, we can try as much as we can, but you know, if there's a will, yeah, we can only do so much to prevent it, and we're trying to do everything we can.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Trevor.
Mr. Chair, if I just may add to Councilwoman Baker's question, I believe the administration has removed all the sheets from the cells. So that's one thing that they removed the physical sheets from all the cells, I believe. So I think that's one other step that has been taken to try to help the situation.
All right, are there any further questions?
Can I just go back to the quantity, Laura? I understand that we want to make sure we have enough, but if we're concerned about storage and even being able to clean the blankets, and if we think we only need 500 or so, or for 500 inmates, and I'm just curious of how we came about to order the 2,000. Was it a pricing standpoint? Was it a significant savings if we ordered so many, or just how was the 2,000 number come about if we were going to only originally order 500?
That was, my understanding, was a recommendation from the Adams Board that came through the executive office to us. One of the doctors over there made the recommendation that we expand the targeted area to include more, and that's what we're trying to do. Because originally, I think what they were saying is everybody should have them. However, what you end up having then is you have to have 2 blankets for each person, one to go on the bottom and one to go on the top. So it's 2 per inmate if we're going to be using them. And so it would have been outrageous to try and have 4,000 of them. So we said, we'll start with the 2,000. Let's you know, see how it goes, and then we can go from there. Because that kind of split the difference on the amount. So that's where the number came from.
Okay, that's what I thought the ultimate plan was, or the recommendation was, to have one for every inmate. And I know 2,000 isn't exactly how many we have, but I was just wondering how we got to that number versus one for technically 2 for every inmate.
Yeah, so at the moment, we're going to test this out. We'll see how it goes, and then if we find that, you know, we can make it work, and if it's beneficial and cost effective, then we can add additional.
All right. Any further questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-666, Sheriff's Department recommending an award on requisition 46680 to Charmtex, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $7,900 for the purchase of 100 anti-suicide gowns for Cuyahoga County Jail inmates.
Laura Sims, Sheriff's Department. These are the gowns that we had spoke about. And wow, 666, how about that for a number? In any case, anybody have any questions about this?
Any further questions? Obviously, these are reusable, Laura.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We can launder them and they can be used again. And again, these are the short ones, and we'll have the long ones at the next meeting.
Any further questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second? Motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Laura.
Next item, we're moving on to exemptions. Item number BC 2019-667, Department of Health and Human Services, Cuyahoga Job and Family Services, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 46381, which will result in an award recommendation to United Way of Greater Cleveland in the amount not to exceed $1,095,450 for fiscal agent services. And at this time, we would like to also add the following language: and food assistance for emergency food purchases for eligible Cuyahoga County residents, and it's for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020.
Good afternoon. Julie Schaefer-Wisniewski, Health and Human Services, on behalf of Cuyahoga Job and Family Services. We are seeking an exemption for United Way for emergency food. They are serving as the fiscal agent. They collect a 0.5% of the total dollar value for administrative costs. This funds 37 member agencies that are involved in the Hunger Network, and 100% of the funds are used at the Cleveland Food Bank, and they are only used for food and transportation of food from the food bank.
Any questions? Yes, Councilwoman.
This is an ongoing contract?
It is.
It is. And how many years have we done it?
We bid this out via formal RFP in 2010, and since then it has been a contract each year, and they have not increased the amount since 2012.
Great, and thank you for bringing this to us 4 months early. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
A second.
Motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks. All right, we have a few consent agenda items.
Yes. Item numbers BC 2019-668 through 671.
They're all here. Anyone have any questions on the consent agenda items? All right. Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items. Is there a second? There's a motion and second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. I believe we do have some mission critical items today.
Yes,
Andrea?
we do. We have 2 mission critical items. The first mission critical item is from the Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, recommending an award on requisition 46607 to the Buckeye Ranch in the amount not to exceed $24,999.99 for emergency placement services, and it's for the period July 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
Good afternoon. Emily Lockshine, Health and Human Services, on behalf of the Division of Children and Family Services, presenting a mission critical this afternoon for a 16-year-old female and her newborn baby. Previously, this youth was in a foster care setting and most recently in a shelter placement at the National Youth Advocate Program, while her DCFS worker sought out an appropriate placement for the youth and her newborn. Since being placed at Buckeye Ranch, this young woman has made significant progress with her treatment goals and independent living skills.
Any questions? All right. First, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to consider this item. Is there a second for amending the agenda? There's a motion and second to amend the agenda. All those in favor of amending the agenda, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? All right. So
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any questions about the substantive item before we vote? No, hearing none. I'd like to move then to approve the item. Is there a second? There's a motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next mission critical item is from the Office of the Medical Examiner, recommending an award on requisition 46688 to Team Fabrication, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $2,153.25 for emergency repair of a bullet recovery tank.
Buchanan Medical Examiner's Office. There was a leak in the tank in ballistics and needed to be repaired.
All right. I'd like to move to amend the agenda to include this item. Is there a second? There's a motion and second to amend the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? All right. The agenda is amended. Any questions about the item? Hearing none, I'd like to move to approve the item. Is there a second? There's a motion and second to approve the item. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have no public comment still, Andrea?
No public comment and no, excuse me, I'm sorry, no public comment.
Okay. And then I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you.
All right, we did it. You stayed for the whole thing.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.